Dear participants, my name is Wojciech Zając and I'm a partner in the law firm SZ Legal Schindhelm in Poland. On behalf of the Schindhelm network, I would like to say a few words to all our guests. I warmly welcome you to the meeting Doing Business in Russia. And I'm convinced that the meeting will provide you with a lot of useful and practical information. Additionally, our aim is to show you how global and at the same time integrated the Schindhelm Group is. I warmly welcome our Russian team, Thomas and Valeria. We have small request to participants just to send a simple message to the chat. Just find the chat window and type 1 if you are already doing business in Russia, or type 2 if you are just thinking about doing business in Russia. It will help our Russian colleagues during the presentation. So I will pass the floor to the Thomas Brandt from Brandt and Partner Law Office, and I wish him a successful presentation. Go, Thomas.
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our presentation, Doing Business in Russia. My name is Thomas Brandt. I'm not Russian, I'm a German attorney at law. I've been advising foreign clients in Russia here for more than 22 years. And we will be happy to provide you with a legal update, news from Russia. I will start with the legal part. And the second part will be done by Valeria Khmelevskaya, who is a Russian lawyer and tax advisor, and she will give you the top 5 of Russian tax issues currently interesting for foreign investors doing business in Russia. Give me 1 second to start my presentation. Okay. Now I have a problem. Where's the presentation? Okay, I hope everybody is able to see the presentation. Let me get started. Doing business in Russia. Some people think that Russia is a difficult country and doing business here is even dangerous. As I mentioned in the beginning, I've been doing legal advice here for more than 20 years. And in fact, if we look back in time, doing business here was pretty difficult because the legal environment was not so sophisticated. But that's why I like to start with my first slide here, Doing Business ranking in Russia. It is published by the World Bank every year. And as you can see, in the last 10, 11 years, the ranking of Russia has heavily improved. So in 2010, we ranked 120, and now we are on rank 28. And this is not only a figure. We as lawyers and tax advisors can really see and feel the difference in our day-to-day business and the business of our clients here. So all in all, doing business in Russia has become better and safer because the legal framework was heavily improved over the last years. If we go into the details, you can see the different categories which are important for foreign investors. For example, starting a business. It is pretty easy to open up a company here. It takes about 2-3 weeks maximum, plus opening of bank accounts. So actually it works even better than, for example, in Germany. The whole process is pretty good organized. We have a very well functioning trade register. So if you are thinking of setting up a company here in Russia, that is really pretty easy in the meanwhile. Another important point here is dealing with construction permits. If you're planning to do a production here in Russia, which also many of our clients already do, a couple of years ago it was terribly difficult to receive permits. and this is also heavily improved. I don't want to get into all these points, but one negative point I also want to mention is one of the last ones, trading across borders. You can see that Russia is still ranked like 99 or 100 with really little improvement over the last years. That means that the Russian customs border is still a hurdle that has to be climbed and is still pretty formalistic, even though in practice we think anyway a lot has improved. But you have to really know the details. You have to have a good logistics broker who knows how to import your goods in Russia. That is just a little overview. Economically, yeah, well, we are also, of course, here hit by the pandemic. Russia is regularly hit by economical crises. So I've also seen many of them here, the financial crisis, devaluation of the ruble, end of the 90s. So we frequently have crises here, which is, of course, in a way bad. But on the other hand, I think the people here are more used to it and can cope better with crisis situations than in Western Europe. If we look in the concrete figures, you can see that we had economical growth, moderate economical growth, and interestingly, in 2020, the economy suffered, but not as much as in Western Europe. And currently, the figures are actually pretty well. So we see a growth, and we also see growth in trade with the European countries and Asia. So we are actually currently pretty optimistic. And the needs for foreign products in Russia is still very, very high. In particular, German companies, they are selling a lot of machinery and chemical products, only to mention a few. A factor that has negatively affected business is the ruble exchange rate. It had been pretty stable after the 2014 crisis, but actually devaluated in 2020 and is now under 89. I saw this today, which makes foreign products which are invoiced on euro basis, of course, more expensive, which is not good for Russian companies. Because I'm German, I'm mainly talking about a German business here in Russia, which might not be so interesting for you, but anyway, Germany is one of the biggest investors here in Russia. There are still more than 5,000 German companies doing business here with subsidiaries or representative offices. In last year, we have seen less incomers, so less new companies, but there are still a lot of companies who are thinking about coming to Russia, purely because of its size and the big market, more than 140 million people living here. And the economy is really in need of a lot of good products from abroad. So if you have Russia on your screen, I think the first thing you should know, you should really not be afraid of doing business here. There are, of course, certain exemptions in areas where normally foreign investors do not invest, and you also have restrictions on strategical sectors where you simply are not entitled to invest and also not entitled to buy shares in Russian companies. For example, oil and gas sector, there are for sure restrictions, but also in the media sector, internet. So before you are investing or thinking to invest, you should really do your homework and check whether your business is affected by general restrictions or not. Most of the businesses are not affected. If you're talking about entering the Russian market, of course, we will come later to the point setting up your own entity or rep office in Russia. But we have a lot of clients that prefer to buy Russian assets. So, for example, they're a Russian dealer that they've been working with for a couple of years or decades. So that is always an option to enter the Russian market. And the legal framework for buying Russian companies has also heavily improved over the last years. We have seen big reforms of the law on limited liability companies and the registration law as such, the notary law. But anyway, of course, you have to do your homework. If you are buying companies in Russia, Russian law applies, which is very important. The general structure of the deals is more or less the same as elsewhere. You have antitrust issues, so you have to check beforehand if it is a strategical sector, if you need antitrust consent to buy a Russian company. And the rest is more or less, I would say, standard. What is not standard is due diligence, tax and legal due diligence. That is compulsory for buying an asset in Russia. And in particular, when it comes to corporate structures and the tax risks, at least this is our experience for the projects we had for our clients, that unfortunately, many Russian companies still don't have a really good compliance. And that means that the corporate structure sometimes causes difficulties in transactions, and also the tax liabilities, tax risks can be very high and can also be deal breakers. So it's really important to check your Russian partners, the entities you want to buy. Another issue which is important, I want to mention that the investments you are doing in Russia, they are pretty safe, because with most governments, Russia has investment protection agreements, like, for example, with Germany and other European countries or worldwide countries. So you cannot be expropriated easily and have to be paid out a compensation if it happens. Amongst our clients and German companies, it has never happened. That's why I'm saying your investment, if you don't do stupid mistakes, is really pretty safe here in Russia. When we're talking about buying company, we are talking about share deals. Here in Russia, share deals have to be notarized in front of a Russian notary. Russian language is decisive. The Russian notary will not notarize the foreign language document. You can have bilingual documents, but Russian language is decisive. And then also a problem now due to COVID is that we have certain travel restrictions for foreigners coming to Russia. So we can in any way represent our clients on the basis of a power of attorney. So you don't have to come to Russia necessarily to conclude the transaction. Another issue, just a minute, joint ventures. That was very popular at the end of the 90s. I'm not a big fan of joint ventures. That means having a Russian partner in your company, but in certain situations, it can be a proper approach to your business in Russia. And compared to 15, 20 years ago, the legal framework is really also good for that, because we have seen the big reform of the LLC law. We can now conclude shareholders agreements where you can regulate call and put options with your partners for deadlock situations, or also for exits. And also regarding the management of the company, Russian law has heavily improved. Now we have 4I principle. That means you can appoint 1, 2, or more general directors who will decide jointly. So if you have a Russian partner in the management, you can decide together with your partners. And also when it comes to dividend payment, very frequently asked questions by clients. Dividend payments are easily makeable from Russia abroad. There are basically no legal restrictions. There are technical things you have to consider, but the rest really works very well. If we are talking about the market as such, just a few words about the sanctions. We still have the European sanctions against Russia. They will be extended for sure. So we have the embargo for weapons and dual-use goods, which might affect you. We had clients that were affected, so they had to stop delivery to Russia. But anyway, there are only a few affected by that, but it has to be on your checklist for sure, because there are also big fines, and you can be criminal liable if you export or try to export something that falls under the sanctions. At the same time, the Russian sanctions, there are only really a few, mainly affecting the agricultural sector. This is a little overview about the products. Russia was actually pretty clever with their sanctions, because they are more or less protecting their market and not harming themselves. And we have seen the agricultural sector growing heavily because there were a lot of investment in the production of meat, etc. pp. And actually Russia is again, like in Soviet times, the biggest wheat exporter in the world. What is more or can more affect foreign sellers actually is the import substitution. So we have a policy here that certain products in Russia should be bought Russian if there are comparable products with Russian origin. This is a certain obstacle, but it is valid only for public companies. So in the private sector, we have no restrictions. But anyway, also in the private sector, we sometimes see that the companies prefer to buy Russian than abroad if it's not absolutely necessary to buy foreign products. In fact, the impact the import substitution had so far is not so remarkable, but anyway, you have to check, of course, whether your products fall into this import substitution or not. To mention a few: medical technical products, transportation vehicles, pharmaceutical, and also software to a certain extent. Many of our clients, they don't have presence here. They are just selling to Russia through a distributor, a dealer, because they are a little bit afraid of the Russian market or have other reasons not to enter the Russian market. There is an option, of course, to sell in Russia. It has certain advantages. But in general, I would say that most of our clients have a real interest in the Russian market. Sooner or later, they will make the second step, so open up their own branch or limited liability company. And from my practice, I can say that the collaboration between foreign sellers and dealers has not a very high life expectancy. And we've seen a lot of problems in the relationships with the Russian distributors. So I think setting up your own company here or branch is always a good option. Anyway, if you have a Russian partner, what is very important, you need a written contract, bilingual contracts, so that the goods can be imported. It's necessary for the bank, not really from a civil law perspective 100%, but the practice is always have an agreement, always have it written, bilingual, and always stipulate everything that is important in your relationship. So you need to invest a little bit more time in drawing your agreements properly and regulating liabilities, penalties, and what is very important is not only the choice of law, but also the place of jurisdiction. From German perspective, I can say never choose German jurisdiction, so the normal German state court, because you cannot enforce normal state court decisions from German courts in Russia, because there's not a relevant agreement. So either you have to sue your Russian partner in Russia or agree on international arbitration. Okay. If you're thinking about your own presence in Russia, there are basically three options. Either you open up a representative office or a branch, or a Russian company. The representative office is something very limited because you cannot really sell anything, you cannot import, you cannot sell services, it's not commercial. You should only carry out auxiliary activities in Russia. And also a branch, so it's a part of the foreign company based in Russia, cannot import, it can render services and invoice the clients, but cannot import goods. So if we're talking about import in Russia, we're always talking about setting up your own company in Russia. And that is actually a pretty big step, and it needs to be prepared in a proper way. So I think you first of all have to do market analysis. You have to see where in Russia would you set up a company. Most of our clients have their subsidiaries here in Moscow, St. Petersburg, or another big city in Russia, in the European part. And there are a lot of questions also regarding not only the place of business, but human resources. You always need a good Russian general manager here, who is actually the engine of your activities. And you need this general director right from the beginning. You can also have a foreigner being general director, but only with work permit. So only after the company has been set up, work permit has been obtained, the foreigner can be appointed. Another important thing is, of course, you need a legal address, so either an office or a rented address, which can be problematic in certain cases, and also opening bank accounts is pretty easy in the meanwhile. But since 2 years, you have to provide the bank with a lot of information about the beneficial owner. So you have to actually tell a lot about your company in order to get bank accounts here. It is pretty strict. The type of company we have in Russia, the only company I would say, is the LLC. So we would not advise our clients to use another legal form like stock company. 100% of our clients have limited liability companies, so the OO. You don't need a Russian partner, you don't need a Russian shareholder, and setting up a limited liability company is pretty easy. And the share capital is pretty low, 10,000 rubles, which amounts to approximately 120 euro. So that's not a lot. And the whole registration process is pretty fast and easy and modern. And also online, so all the documents are submitted by the notary to the tax authorities that are running the register. So if you decide to set up a company here, can be done within 4 weeks without a problem. The registration itself takes only five working days. Okay, I'm through with 20 minutes. I hope anyway that I could give you a brief overview and some important information. There's really a lot to say, and we are advising every day, 12 hours to our clients how to structure their business and to work in Russia. So if you have any questions, please contact me or Valeria, and Valeria will now talk about tax in Russia. Valeria, as I said, she's a tax partner at Brand & Partner, our law firm here, and she's also the chairman of the tax committee at the German-Russian Chamber of Commerce, and always in contact with the Russian tax authorities. So I would like Valeria now to start her presentation.
Thank you, Thomas, for introduction. Give me 10 seconds just to start with my presentation. Hopefully you will see it right now. You can see it, hopefully. As I saw that we have 50-50, I mean, some companies already doing business in Russia, and some companies are intending to do so. I think I should start with a brief overview of on major taxes in Russia. So Comparable to Europe, we have profits tax, which is called usually corporation tax. It's rather low in Russia. It's 20% on the tax base, taxable income minus deductible costs. There is nothing special about that. We also have some special rates for dividends. Major rate is 15% when we are paying out to foreign companies, but we can use double taxation treaty and to use incentives, so we can reduce the rate on dividends up to down to 5%. For example, for Germany, you need to have at least 10% in the share capital, and the participation share of 80,000 euro. For Poland, you need simply 10% share to have this 5%. For Austria, also 10% and nothing else. For Spain, you need also to have the share of about 100,000 euro to enjoy this 5% reduced rate. As for VAT, it's 20% ordinary rate, and we have some reduced rates for food and books. It's like 10%. We have also some exemptions. We have 0 for exports, so there is nothing special. We have in Russia regarding the VAT. What is special, we now differ in the basic rules for place of supply, but hopefully we will be like Europe soon, but currently it's vice versa. So in some cases, when you supply some services to Russia, you may face either non-taxation or taxation doubled because you have VAT in Russia and VAT in the EU. So we are trying to achieve some harmonization at the EU level, but this will take time. For sure, but now it's already supported by the Russian government, by Russian Ministry of Finance. Another tax I would like to point your attention to, it's personal income tax. It's rather low in Russia. It's 13% for residents, or in some cases it's maybe 15, but it's still very low if we compare to European level. Also for foreigners, for foreign employees who come to Russia and obtain the status of highly qualified specialist, you can also have this 13%, which is quite interesting because the payroll of such high qualified specialists is also exempted from social security contributions. So it may be very, very good for foreign employees to come to Russia to work. So we have social security contributions, which is payable by Russian employers. So the employees pay nothing. That's really differs from Europe. The average rate is about 30%, but there are some incentives. For example, for IT companies, it may be really rather low. And we also have reduced rates for small and mid-sized enterprises, 15%, starting from some certain amounts, but overall it's really also reduced. So, and one more tax I would like to pay attention, it's corporate property tax. It's the highest level is set forth at the federal level in the tax code. It's about 2.2%, but the regions are the key players, and they decide how high the rate will be. So the regions set the final rates for corporate taxes in corporate property taxes in Russia. We have other taxes also in Russia, like transport tax, land tax, and so on, but I think that they are now not so very important for our presentation. So if you start working with Russian companies, of course, you will have supply contracts. So this is the simplest contract we have in our legislation. And yeah, what can happen in the supply contracts? You supply goods and nothing else, but it's not that easy. You may have some interesting issues in there. If you, for example, supply some equipment or doing some construction and assembly works together with this equipment, or some supervision, or you foresee in this supply contract some additional services like trainings, which have to happen not only upon installation but also later on. This is qualified differently, and it's kind of services and works, and therefore from tax perspective this is already taxable event, and this have different consequences. So you should bear this in mind when you draft or sign contracts with Russian companies. If your employees are going to stay for more than 30 days or at least 30 days at one place and one distant place at one address in Russia, you may face the obligation to tax registration. Tax registration means you will obtain a tax number, and so you may create a permanent establishment. That's a quite important thing. Permanent establishment, it's tax status which require you to file tax returns, to pay profit tax like a normal Russian company. And this would mean you will have to engage some accountants who will provide necessary support and assistance. So you should think about that. There is exception from this rule if you have installation projects or construction site. If we are talking about such jurisdictions, Germany, you have construction and installation, which may lead to obligation to pay corporate income tax or profits tax only in case if this construction site lasts or installation lasts more than 12 months. If you are talking about Austria, this is also the same. There are special rules for Poland. You may have supervision, which is equal to construction sites due to double taxation treaty. So please consider provisions of double taxation treaties, because they may differ with respect to definition of construction sites. So you should check, for example, the same we have with the Czech Republic. So if you have simple supervision, a kind of consultancy upon installation, but doing no installation at all, this is also a construction site for tax purposes. I mean, you may provide these services, conduct these works during 12 months without any obligation to pay taxes in Russia. But this depends really on jurisdiction. It's not possible, for example, with under the double taxation treaty with Germany. So what else may be important? Some supply contracts may have IT components or some intercompany contracts or some other contracts with third parties. If you provide some software on equipment, or you provide rights to software, or you are selling something on the sites, not goods, some services, some licenses, some films, some books, you will fall under this regulation. This is these are the so-called electronically supplied services. So what is this? In case you provide such services, you have to register in Russia for tax purposes. You can see the list of electronic services, rights to software, databases, including updates, technical support, internet advertising, marketplaces, websites, social networks, web hosting, cloud technologies. All these kinds of services may fall under this electronically supplied services list. Also, all intercompany contracts if we are talking about businesses working in Russia already. So if you have some intercompany license or you have this SaaS agreements, software service agreement, you also may fall under this regulation. You have some exceptions to this rule. If you simply order the goods via internet, this is not electronically supplied services. Some consulting by mail, also not electronically supplied services. Please also consider this failure to register. You will have fines, but it's rather theoretical risk if you have no presence in Russia. If you have presence in Russia, this may be dangerous. So you have some fines like 10% on turnover from sales from some such services, also fines for non-payment of taxes, non-filing tax returns, and so on. And we also provided link regarding these electronically supplied services. You may go under this link, you see all the requirements, and it's pretty easy to register in Russia. You can do it online by yourself. In case you're already active in Russia, Thomas told you there may be such a form like representative office. It's a quite non-commercial unit which has no status of a legal entity, but still needs to be accredited in Russia, and everything this unit does is also liability of a foreign company of the head office. So usually these representative offices have no commercial activities. They have only preparatory and auxiliary activities, but sometimes it's really difficult to distinguish between commercial and non-commercial activities of such representative office. That's why we have a lot of frequent audits regarding of activities of such representative offices. So you may check, or you should be really very cautious about acting by representative office. So if the employees of the representative office participate in some contract negotiations with the Russian partners, or if they provide activities in favor of third parties, even if this happens free of charge, if the representative office fully supports you when you perform in your contracts in Russia, like warranties, like obtaining some certificates, some technical advice, that's already no more auxiliary activities. These are commercial activities which should be taxed with the profits tax. And this is the main point of the Russian tax authorities, who are trying to find some points of some aspects of commercial activities in activity of such representative offices. So in this case, you have also 20% profit tax if you are really commercial, and you also have VAT as a normal Russian entity. This is all for representative offices. And if you are already well established in Russia, the main issues may be related to intercompany services provision. They are often challenged in Russia in case the Russian companies, Russian daughter companies incur some costs which are deductible for tax purposes. There is no big difference from the European issues. So Russian tax authorities always refer to OECD transfer pricing guidelines with this test like arm's length principle, that the services should be really provided, there should be no duplication, no shareholders activities, there should be economic and commercial value for the Russian entities for the related services to be deducted. There are also some local requirements that there should be documentation confirming this services provision, that the services should be economically justified and aimed at income gaining, and that's it. And one of my final slides also to a very, very important topic now, intercompany financing. We know that there may be some intercompany loans to finance the daughter companies in Russia by foreign parents, and there may be some issues if the daughter has losses and at the same time deducts loan interest. So you should really be careful and find explanation and enough arguments to explain why you finance in such a way. We also have some. Okay, I see some questions. I would be happy to answer as soon as I'll finish. I have 2 minutes left. There may be also issues if you have denial of loan interest. This loan interest denied may be also qualified as dividends for tax purposes. So these are the Russian rules. We have also new rules on equity financing, which is actually positive changes. You know, we have also a possibility to finance the companies through equity contributions. It's called in Russia contributions to additional capital. So they are tax-free, and if you later on decide to exit the company or liquidate the company and obtain some payments from which are paid upon liquidation. So these payments are usually treated as dividends, and the only deductible amount prior to these new rules was actually the share amount. But now you can also consider these capital contributions. So that's really very, very positive. Also interesting new rule we have in Russia now, that we have tax-free transfer allowed regarding property rights. Previously it was only property rights. It's like license, it's like some rights from lease agreements, for example. And also not only shareholders, but also the grandmother company, so the parental company of the shareholder may also affect such tax-free transfer. The only prohibition is the offshore companies are not allowed to do so. But we are not, I think that our participants are not in such jurisdiction. What is important to say, we have double taxation treaty incentives, which are only possible if you confirm that you are a beneficial owner. You confirm it in 3 directions. First of all, you should have documents confirming that you are residing in a specific jurisdiction. This is the so-called tax certificate, which you have to obtain in your tax authority. It should be also with apostille if we are talking about Austria, Spain, and Poland, but no apostille is required for Switzerland, for example, or for Germany. You should also have confirmation. It's a kind of paper issued by the company, parental company itself, where it confirms that it has lease contracts. There is no obligation to transfer this income to some other persons. Also give numbers on your personnel, give numbers on your financial reports, that you pay taxes, and that's enough on the document side to confirm that you have the rights to incentives. Some companies, especially when the amounts are very high, prefer to prepare the so-called defense file. So you provide copies of the documents confirming the information you provide in the confirmation from the income recipients. What is also important, there may be some specific provision or in your double taxation treaty regarding beneficial ownership. Please check it because they may vary from country to country. And MLI. MLI is a special thing. Russia has mostly principal purpose tests to be fulfilled. So the main aim of transaction should not be the tax aim. So if you have some business grounding for your payments, there should be no problem. So PPT or principal purpose test is okay. But in general, in practice, with big amounts, there may be issues. So please be careful. And the last two topics, but very, very quick. We have a lot of issues related to inclusion into customs value of the so-called licenses. And there are also issues related to inclusion, even dividends into customs value. Customs value, this is actually what is shown in your the price shown in your supply contract. But sometimes Russian customs authorities say you should also add license fees, you should also add dividends. Customs value is actually the basis, the ground for customs duty, and also partly also for VAT. It's very important to say that this customs value and all customs payments also relate on the Russian buyer. So this issue is important in case you have Russian companies or you are bothered about pricing in Russia. I mean, if Russian importer pays more, they of course then sell with the higher pricing. Royalties should be included into customs value if we have two conditions met or fulfilled. If license fee relates to the goods, for example, we have trademarks on the goods, so license fees. If we pay trademark license fees, then the license fee should be included into customs value. And license fees is a precondition for further sale, means that license fee, without this license, you cannot sell the goods further. It's a very, very complicated issue. You should, but this is simply for you to know that there may be this issue, but of course, if you have it, then you should check it. So in case you decide to establish a company in Russia or already have one, please check whether you are a small and mid-size company, because there may be some incentives, especially related to social contribution side. We have some conditions to be fulfilled for a foreign company. You may see them on slides. Annual turnover no more than 2 billion rubles, and also personnel should be limited to 250 employees. Also, foreign companies may be so for companies with foreign participation, maybe also small and mid-sized enterprises without any specific limitations. We have generally 49% limitation, but if the participant or parental company is also small and mid-size company which complies with these conditions listed in this slide. And when this is confirmed by a Russian audit company, so you can be also a small and mid-size enterprise in Russia. You should be in register, and then you have rights to some incentives. It may be interested because currently small and mid-size companies on topical, they are top for governmental agenda. So there are many incentives which are discussed to provide to such companies. So that's all from my side. Hopefully I'm not overlapping the time, not so much. I will stop my presentation. I think I've done it, yeah? Okay. So let's go to discuss. I saw we have a lot of questions, colleagues. Thomas, you will start probably.
Okay, I will start. I think there are two questions more or less addressed to myself and related to taxes. So maybe let me answer the first question regarding the civil court system in Russia. The reputation of the court system in Russia is pretty bad. The reality is much better. We have seen many reforms here of the judicial system. We have seen salaries for judges being heavily increased already a couple of years ago. We have seen a very good reform that makes the Russian court system very modern in the sense that everything works online. Of course, not the court meetings, but you can submit claims online and replies, and you can see what is going on online. That is very good. We have basically 3 instances plus the highest Russian court, and the courts here work much faster than in particular in Germany. So if you have a claim, you go to the first instance, then you have to go to the second and third one. A final decision you can obtain within 1.5 to 2 years. That is our experience. So that is really quickly. And also, of course, I'm often asked, yeah, corruption, does that play a role? We represent a lot of clients here in court, and normally I would say 99% of commercial disputes, that really does not play any role. So the quality and the speed of the decisions is pretty good, and we also are sure for most cases there is no corruption. But it depends also where you go. In Moscow and Petersburg, courts work very well. In the regions in the Far East, it might not be the case. So don't be afraid suing your Russian partner in Russian courts. If you don't want it anyway, you can also agree on arbitration clauses. For example, the MCAS, that's the most famous arbitration court here, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Moscow. It's very reputable, it's very well. Also international judges working there. You can choose your language, Spanish, Polish, German, and that's a good alternative, even though the costs may be higher. The second question was concerning posting employees to Russia. Just in a nutshell, if you're a foreigner, you want to work in Russia, you need to have a work permit. Without work permit, work visa, you cannot work in Russia. That's very logical. That's the case everywhere. Here for managers, we have a special system, the HQS, High Qualified Specialist work permit, which can be obtained very easily and very fast, and is normally used for managers, foreign managers working here. And another benefit is that the high qualified specialists are paying 13, respectively 15% taxes even if they are spent less than 183 days here in Russia, which is also good. Regarding labor law, all the foreign employees also need a labor contract here in Russia, not only to obtain a work permit, but as a legal basis for their employment here. And if they are spending 100% of their workforce for the Russian entity, they also have to receive 100% of their salary here. So salary split is not really advisable, only in case there's really a second agreement in Spain or Germany, and works are also carried out for the mother company. Yeah, that's basically it for posting employees here in Russia. And I see another question before Valeria will answer the text questions. Well, yes, that's a good question. So are there differences in the ease of terminating a manager and an ordinary employee? Absolutely. So managers, general managers of Russian entities, they can be sacked without a reason with immediate effect. So the legal position from the employee side, and general managers are employees here in Russia, is absolutely easy, much easier than in Europe. You just simply need a shareholder's decision or a participant's decision to terminate. And within 1 day, you can fire a person. The only consequence you face as an employer is you have to pay a compensation of 3 average monthly salaries. Compensation provided for by law and cannot be changed, but that is compared to other jurisdictions, it's not a lot. So it's easy and cheap to get rid of your manager. When it comes to other employees, there is of course protection for the employees, and it's similar actually to what you find in Europe. So you need a reason, either personal or in connection with the business itself. So you have the possibility, if business goes bad, to make staff reduction. You can fire people if they are drunk at the office or late many times. But anyway, it is a very formalistic process, more formalistic than Europe. And if you don't have the documents properly set up and the procedures followed, termination will be cancelled in court. So you really have to be a little bit careful. Okay, I think that was regarding labor law, Valeria. So I pass on the word to you.
Thank you, Thomas. Actually, I have 2 tax issues right now, which I can see in chat. For the first question, as a Spanish listed company, are there tax advantages to opening a subsidiary in Russia? That's a good question. Thank you for that. We have MLI, which works for such a company. I would say, if I compare, I know that we have different jurisdictions today on our seminar. We have also Austria, we have also Poland, and I can also compare to Germany. I would say that the Spanish double taxation treaty is on my mind. It's not the best one, because there are a lot of issues and additional conditions, like for example, you have to have a share of at least 100,000 euro to apply the reduced rate of 10%. And there is another condition, additional condition, to apply for 5% on dividends. That's already an issue. If you compare to Austria, double taxation treaty in Austria, you should only have 10% participation to apply the 5% rate on dividends. If I can understand, it's a listed company. So what's maybe easier from Russian perspective, probably documentary confirmation may be easier for you to apply double taxation treaty incentives. If I speaking about if you create a company as a Spanish shareholder, you will need some additional confirmation on payments of loan interest. For example, if your daughter company pays you loan interest, you have to comply with certain conditions not to pay taxes, source tax, withholding tax on such a loan interest in Russia. But in other cases, you should pay 5%. For example, with Germany or Austria, actually this payment is exempted. You should simply provide for confirmation that you are residing in such country. Of course, we should also consider the local legislation, taxation in Austria and in Spain or in Poland, just to take the final decision which jurisdiction should be chosen for parental company, or you have already parental company there. So it's I don't see any, just answering in short your question, I don't see any specific advantages if you are a Spanish listed company. I would say probably think of Austria or Germany as a jurisdiction, because they are easy with respect, at least for source payments. Of course, there should be other factors considered, but when I base my judgment on double taxation treaty, I don't see any specific advantages. I think it's maybe less interesting. So another question, are COVID conditional tax reliefs still in force? Colleagues, so what is important to say, there were no specific tax reliefs with respect to COVID or coronavirus. We had some postponement of tax payments. We had some delays in filing tax returns, but there were no specific exemptions. There were nothing that relates to reducing the tax amount, the tax burden. There were some delays, some credits, there were some ease in administration, there were some postponement of tax audits, there were reduction of social contributions from 30% to 15%, starting from certain amounts. I already told it, but this tax relief, it's not relief, this tax incentive shall remain in force further on, and this reduction of social contributions will be applied only to small and mid-sized companies. There is now discussion regarding exemption of HoReCa, so some restaurants, hotel businesses from VAT. But this is only discussion. Probably the relevant amendments shall come into force starting from the next year, or at least from the next quarter. If we are talking about VAT, it's a kind of experiment which is now which may be further on extended to other small and mid-sized companies. What else we have as a tax relief? For example, what I already presented, these were not related directly to COVID, but there were some incentives related to this contributions to the additional capital to the property of the company. There were also some eases related to financing of the companies. Some benchmarking corridors were extended with respect to loan interest deductible. What else happened? Yeah, there were some expenses listed in the tax code which are related to purchase of masks and other medical equipment, and also to transfer of medical equipment to hospitals. This transfer were made tax-free, and also expenses with respect to such transfers onto masks and medical equipment were allowed. In general, that's it. There were also some non-tax measures like credits to pay payroll, and also some credits to pay taxes, but these are not tax reliefs which are known to us in general sense. That's there were measures to support the companies, but no payments made to individual entrepreneurs. Our states were concentrated more on citizens. So some citizens obtained money for children and so on during COVID. Probably I will be able to send you later on, or to organizers, the link to Federal Tax Service. I think they have it also in English, the short or brief list of COVID measures which were affected during the COVID time. So some measures, again, related to suspended filing of tax returns, suspension of tax audits, but not related to some amounts or reduction of tax amounts, except for social contributions. So that's it on my side. I don't think I have other questions. Let me see. So it's doubled. Yeah, that's it on my side. Thank you so much. Thomas?
Yes, but I think it's Wojciech's turn, right?
Yes, it is my turn. Okay. So first, I want to thank you very much, Valeria and Thomas. It was a great presentation. From my perspective, very useful one. I asked one question, this one about the managers, and the answer was very helpful for me, and especially for my clients. So I think that the rest of the information is useful as well. Of course, I want to thank all the participants, and I think that all the rest of the people found also very interesting your presentation. Of course, we invite you to follow the social media of Schienhelm Group, where we will inform you about our further events, and of course, stay in touch with the Russian team. And the rest of the Schienhelm Group law offices. So thank you very much for the participating.
Thank you.